Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to tell you all about the ketogenic spectrum and basically the easiest and most reliable ways you can enter ketosis and the different depths of which and how to get into those various depths of ketosis. So basically, if you're somebody who's trying to get into the ketogenic state, this is going to tell you all the different kinds of ways that you can get even into a fraction of ketosis, which is still ketogenic, and the deepest ends of the pool, okay, the deep end. So maybe you're familiar with the ketogenic diet, maybe you're not. Maybe you want to start doing some sort of keto cycling, maybe you've been doing it for a while, and maybe you're just somebody who is just trying to understand this whole damn thing. This is going to tell you, and I've made a little diagram, which will probably be above my head at some point or another in this video, that will demonstrate a visual representation of the different depths of ketosis and how to get into them. So this is not meant to be prescriptive. It's not meant to be, you're going to be at this many millimolars in your blood, but it's going to give you a general guideline of what's going to get you into the deepest depths of ketosis and what's going to get you your foot in the door, okay? Number one, the most number one ketogenic thing you can do is not eat anything. That's the most number one thing you can do. That's the number one ketogenic thing you can do. So that rule often gets twisted around, and sometimes I present it in different ways, because as long as you're not eating carbohydrates, you're not going to be in a carb metabolism. If you're not eating carbohydrates, you're going to be in a ketogenic state. How deep that ketogenic state is will be determined by if you're eating anything else. So maybe the rule is better presented as the number one most ketogenic thing you can do is not eat carbs. So if you're not eating anything at all, you'll be in a deeper state. But if you're not eating carbs, you'll be in nutritional ketosis, which is just not eating carbs. You're in a ketogenic state, but not in the deep ends of the water. So if you fast for multiple days, that is the deepest way to be in ketosis. Congratulations. You can boost this by using something that's called a keto ester. So that keto esters are the most powerful keto supplements. They're a form of exogenous ketones. The ones that are available on the market or in retailers are ketone salts. Ketone esters are not attached to salt, and basically it requires less of them to put you in a deeper state of ketosis. So realistically, the only people who have those are people who have friends in medical labs, or if you buy them for expensive prices online from various retailers. So at the very end, we have fasted state. Fasted state is the number one most ketogenic thing you can do to be in deep ketosis. From there, we have nutritional ketosis. And if you go lower on the protein, you will be in a more ketogenic state. However, I always advocate to get enough protein and to treat protein like a goal, because a lot of people, especially if you're athletic, which seems to be a large amount of people in my audience of watching my videos, they need more than a small amount of protein. And I do too. I personally feel a lot better when I have a good amount of protein and I don't push it too low. Unless you're somebody who's new, starting off with very low protein is something that's really only reserved for therapeutic reasons. So if you have, epilepsy or some other issue you need to treat with ketosis. So low protein is going to be getting you a little bit closer, and supplementing with MCTs or exogenous ketones can push that a little bit, but you have to keep in mind that is not fully endogenous ketone production. That is not what your body is producing. It's being artificially bumped up into deeper ketosis through the supplementation. So then we have the low carb approach, which is going to be not ketogenic as many people believe it is falsely. The low carb approach, where people are having, 50 to 100 grams of carbs a day, or maybe they're having less than 50 grams a day, but they're coming from the wrong sources. They're coming from a Snickers bar, or they're coming from a slice of bread, okay? The people in that area who are having the starchy or sugary carb, they're going to be in the low carb category. And if you're supplementing with a ketone ester or exogenous ketones or MCT oil, then you'll be dipping your toes in the water of ketosis. However, how deep you're dipping your foot in is going to be dependent on how adapted your body is. So example, for me, somebody who's been doing the ketogenic diet for 7 years, starts having close to 100 grams of carb a day, or maybe even a bit more, and then I start supplementing with a little bit of MCT oil, my body will use those ketones very effectively. They'll probably go straight to my brain, and I will not waste any of them. I won't excrete any more than I have to. Hold on, just have to let my dog out of my room. No, go ahead. Go ahead. So, okay. She keeps me company in a lot of videos. That's Daisy. So, I can get away with more than somebody who is not as experienced in the ketogenic diet simply because my body's physiology is more adept at using ketones when they're present in my body. So, by how much, I can't really say, but I'm certain that I would be able to register blood ketones if I had even a carb meal and MCT or some other sort of keto supplement. And this is actually something that I'm going to be making more videos on because I think it's something that's very sustainable. And as far as athletes out there, they can definitely benefit from having both fuel. This is what's called metabolic flexibility, and it is very powerful. You will be seeing a lot more about this stuff in the future, and a lot of it was developed by the military. So, at least the US military and DARPA. So, then we have, after the moderate carb / low carb area, but not fully keto, then we have the just full on carb metabolism, because after a certain point, you can eat so many carbs and your body's not going to be in ketosis. So you can artificially boost your keto levels, but this is not going to be endogenous ketone production. When it comes to carb metabolism, okay? After a certain point, your body's going to prefer the quickest fuel. If you have somebody who is low on carbs and then they start having ketones in their blood, their body will prefer to use those ketones. But after a certain point, your body's going to pick the quicker fuel. So it all depends on the demand of your body. People will say this fuel source is preferred, that fuel source is preferred. A lot of it depends on the situation, and your body is not stupid. It'll pick whatever is best fitting the context. So if you don't have many carbs in your system, or even if you have a good 200 grams of carb in your system, and then your body sees ketones entering the fray, it'll pick those ketones, especially for your brain. If you're somebody who is very keto adapted, very fat adapted, then your body will use those ketones and your brain will pick them up almost immediately. So in that case, I could eat 500 grams of carb and then still have some MCT, and those MCT, the ketones that MCT produces will not get wasted. However, my body's not going to jump into a state of ketosis. Ketosis is about the lack of carbohydrates. It's not about artificially boosting it with fats. And funny thing enough, I'll jump back to the deep end of ketosis. When people try to boost ketosis by having more fats, essentially, there are some fats that can produce more ketones, like MCTs, but a lot of times it's the lack of extra protein. So protein isn't going to kick you out of ketosis, but if you have less fats, so lower fats, and at the same time you have higher protein, then your body is going to be in a lower state of ketosis. So basically, if you're somebody who is trying to increase endogenous ketone production, eating chunks of butter is going to make you feel good, but those ketones aren't necessarily going to be produced from your own body fat. So you have to keep in mind, it is endogenous production, but it's not going to be as deep of a state, and your body generally can't get into a very deep state of ketosis from just nutritional ketosis. There's a limit, and deep fasting is ultimately going to be the thing that'll get you into deep ketosis. From there, you can artificially boost even the deepest fasted state you can with an ester, but I don't quite know how safe that is if you're already in the deep end of ketosis and then you go to the deeper end. I really don't know. I haven't done a multiple day fast and then had a potent ketone ester beyond a ketone salt, because the ketone esters are very powerful, and if somebody is new to them, it can lower your blood sugar in certain ways. Anyways, so this is the ketogenic spectrum. If you're somebody who's thinking, you know what, I'll dabble around with low carb, you will not be in ketosis unless you have these ketone supplements. If you're somebody who wants to experiment with metabolic flexibility, and like the examples I stated with the MCT and low carb, you can do that, but you have to get your body into the middle ground first. You have to get into nutritional ketosis, or else your body will not be as efficient at using both fuel sources. So really, your gateway into all the metabolic flexibility benefits is going to come from first getting experience with ketosis. So don't think that you can enter from the shallow side, you have to jump in first before you can experience. And I'm very glad with the way that metaphor came out because I just spitballed it. So hopefully this video gave you some insight into getting into actual states of ketosis. It's not about chalking up your fats, because if you have, more carbs than you should on a certain day, when we're talking about nutritional ketosis, if you have more carbs than you should, adding in more fats isn't going to do anything. The thing that's going to get you into deeper ketosis is cutting out those carbs, and as a byproduct of cutting them out, you have higher fat. And from the last thing I'll say is too, a certain amount of protein is going to convert into glucose in your bloodstream. You want a decent amount of gluconeogenesis, which is creating glucose from protein, to occur, because you need that to fill up your muscle glycogen. A lot of people will say that you can't get glycogen on a ketogenic diet, and that is very silly, for me to put it nicely. A lot of it, though, is understandable why people believe that, because most of the studies on keto up until recent years have been done in non-adapted individuals, which means most of the studies looked at people who've never done keto before and put them on it for 4 weeks and then cut them off and said, yeah, these guys aren't as good at making glycogen because their body hasn't even adapted. It takes longer than 4 weeks, exactly 4 weeks actually, to get adapted at the minimum. So from there, all the studies nowadays are coming out showing that your body can easily produce as much glycogen, and you don't necessarily have to carb up, but it can be a luxury that's afforded to you, where your body is flexible in terms of its fuel sources. So hopefully this gave you some insight. Leave me some comments, more questions about whatever else you want to know. As far as a practical guide to entering ketosis and to knowing where you are at all times, because you do not need to measure ketones. That is one thing I should have said at the beginning, but I'll say it now to end off. You absolutely need to know that you don't have to measure your ketones, because the depth of ketosis which you're in is going to only influence fat loss if it's endogenous. So if you're artificially boosting ketosis and you're in I'm in a high state of ketosis right now, that doesn't mean your body's burning more fat from itself. It's burning more fat from what you consumed. So if you're in a defasted state, yes, you are absolutely burning fat from your body, because that's endogenous production of ketones. And if we're looking at what's useful for you to do, measuring ketones isn't going to play well into that, because if you're measuring ketones when the ketones your body produces is not from you, from your body, it's pointless. So it's just going to be a tool to see, oh, this is how I feel when I'm at 7.0, deep fasted state. Or this is how I feel when I'm just touching the brink of ketosis. So that's the practicality of measuring ketones. And it's not going to be from, I eat more protein, so now I need to check my ketones. It's not going to be like that. That's how a lot of people try to misrepresent it. And again, the most effective way to do it is through a blood ketone monitor, Keto Mojo or something like that, because measuring your saliva or your urine is only going to show acetoacetate or acetone, which are the ketones that are being excreted. You want to see how much is in your blood. Anyways, that's the video. Leave me some comments. Go to my website, romanoketo.com, for keto coaching. That's it. Peace.